Greetings, Lighthead here, and I'll warn you from the outset, this will be a contentious video for the simple reason that you either are or are not part of the fandom. I don't expect to convert anyone, as the problem with celebrity worship is that people choose to close their ears to the obvious, yet discuss it I will because he's bothered me for years and I don't much appreciate what he represents. And yet, it turns out there's more meat to this one than I'd first suspected.
Really?
I speak, of course, of Robbie Williams. Now, this video was originally intended to be a lampoon in which I highlighted the corrupting nature of the music industry.
Oh, the corrupt!
Once upon a time, people only liked good music and would demand more from their bands who were only too happy to provide. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin. People had a wealth of excellent and life-changing music to be inspired by. And sure enough, a couple of decades later, we were reduced to this. The boy band.
Boy band, boy band.
A truly terrible idea which deserves its own video. Floppy-haired, handsome and largely talentless young men thrown together and made to perform wafer-thin pop garbage purely for the purposes of making those behind the scenes a ton of money. That's right. The reason I despise this concept is that it takes away opportunities from real musicians whose music could have helped better the world.
I'm a musician.
And yet, those talented people who studied their craft and can actually play an instrument and read and write music and spend hours slaving away to become better have never had the opportunity to be heard.
Is there no justice in this world?
Because people these days don't understand why new music is hollow. They only know what they're bombarded with. Then if you're bombarded with only garbage, then your natural point of view will be to call the best bits of garbage good. But then I remembered what my favourite man Joey Swall would say to such an attitude.
You need to do better.
Make me a better man, Joey. But to be perfectly honest, as I was having a good old spool through of all the videos and facts, I noticed something a tad disturbing.
Disturbing?
And my focus changed entirely. You see, where I used to consider Robbie to be an arrogant, loudmouth, toneless thug, I came to see that all those years of substance abuse and stardom did to him exactly the same thing that it's done to so many who walk in the limelight. It drove him balmy. Quite balmy. That means insane if you're from the colonies. Yes, I hate to say it, but what was going to be a rather entertaining and emotional vent video has actually and surprisingly transformed into a sad tale of warning and woe. Though not too much woe. He is loaded, after all. A tale that anyone in the public eye might choose to remember, lest they too buy a ticket for the fast train direct to the nut house. Mr. Williams' journey began in 1990 when, at the preposterously young age of 16, he became the youngest member of the new, and truly terrible, concept of the boy band. I say new because bands like the Monkees or Beach Boys et al. Weren't really what we would consider proper boy bands, and mostly just sucked. Not the Beach Boys though, they rocked.
Hey!
And with his new co-singers, I won't say artists because a musician isn't an artist, they're obviously a musician.
An artist is a damn artist!
Take that. The single largest boy band entity to exist thus far was born, catapulting the famous five to the tippy top of the game. Even at a young age, it was evident that Robbie was troubled. Substances and illicit activities are pretty much par for the course when you're in the music biz, thanks almost exclusively to Keith Richards from what I gather. And the powder, because this is a family-friendly platform and I can't use the C word, or any of the other fun words for that matter, flowed freely. Typically up Robbie's nasal passages. I'm not sure if I can get away with a snorting sound effect for this one. I wouldn't hold such a thing against a young man enjoying riches and stardom, but that's really just the tip of the iceberg, because these heady early days would lead to far darker ones.
It was just too much, too early. I was like a raging alcoholic. I was just covering up all of my insecurities, sadness, vulnerabilities with drinking and drinking and drinking and drinking. So we were rehearsing for this tour, and I turn up every day and I'm just smashed.
If you're going to be exposed to megastardom before you're even a fully grown man and you haven't had the time to develop your common sense and restraint, then you have to expect that your mental health may suffer a tad. and suffer it did.
I got arrested in my mind. You know, my mind went to hell.
The problem with substances, because I can't say the D word, is the sheer amount of damage they do to your squishy, slimy brain. The various types of brain damage one can suffer are so varied they can look like just about anything. And in Robbie's case, they definitely took on a very specific and troubling form.
Robbie Williams says he's thinking of calling it a day on the singing and launching a career as a full-time UFO chaser. The former Take That frontman was being interviewed by Joss Stone when he told her he'd been visited by little green men, including seeing a ball of gold light that disappeared and reappeared. And the Robster has even set up news alerts on extraterrestrials.
So you believe in the concept of UFOs?
I've seen one, you know, I've seen one right above me, and if I got a tennis ball out, I could have hit it with a tennis ball.
The other problem with excessive substance abuse is that because one's faculties are already damaged, the ability to maintain a sensible and measured outlook is also compromised. So it's a little far-fetched to believe one will ever truly fully recover, and far more likely they will retain their loopy outlook.
Looking up at the sky, and it was about 10:30 at night, and then all of a sudden, the size of 2 football boxes, penalty areas, flat, matte black underneath with these yellow lines, square, came in silently and slowly above me, and I was just staring at it.
You get what you want.
Yes, the ghosts are superglued in the closet and they're not leaving anytime soon. Would have been easy to rage away at, and this is the bit the fans aren't going to appreciate much. Terrible singing in which you can barely hold a note. It's true, it is, let alone sound melodious. If you don't believe me, just listen to that ghastly cat food advert, which I can't get away with posting here thanks to copyrights. Then compare it to someone like honey-voiced Andrea Bocelli. And honestly tell me which one is good and which one isn't.
Fair enough.
Or the, in his youth at least, relentless arrogance and disrespect.
Glastonbury. That's what's going on. The sanitary's awful. The food's poor.
Around the male host of Australia.
I'll have my coat on, because I'm not fucking staying here.
Why?
You see this table?
Yeah.
See this table?
Yeah.
On my measurements, how high have they got to be?
Well, you said 2 foot.
Yeah, well, look at that, look at that, look at that. I'm going to bend over one of these times while I'm here, put me back out. And who's going to sing then? Who's going to sing then? Grapes. How many?
You said 36, sir.
Yeah, well, there's 35. There's 35 grapes. Are they seedless? Are they seedless? Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. What's that? It's a little seed, isn't it? And are they green? Fire. Fire in here. Fire in here. Oh, I'm burning my hands now. I'm burning my hands. No, I'm not burning my hands. It's not a conservatory. Look, it's like an old folks fucking home. And what's this? A Bavarian Greeting?
Or his general sense of thuggery.
Liam, 100 grand of your money, 100 grand of my money. We'll get in the ring and we'll have a fight and you can all watch it on TV. What do you think about that?
Criticising the rich and the wayward may be an obscenely lucrative business in and of itself, but after having witnessed the uncomfortable alien speak, it really took the vitriol out of it for me and replaced it with a tepid sense of malaise. Especially after he acknowledged the issue and actually attempted to do something about it.
I went round to Elton's and he opened the door and I was sort of button crooked and I'd got food down me and red wine stains and whatever, and I was sort of giving me tape and he was like, you're going to go to rehab. I was like, I'm going to go to rehab. And he said, you're going to go to rehab now. And I went, I can't go to rehab now. I'm going next week. And he said, no, you've got to go to rehab now. And I said, I've got to go to rehab now.
Criticising the rich and the wayward may be an obscenely lucrative business in and of itself, but at the end of the day, we have to remember they're just people like anybody else. How many times have you lost your way and been offended at the judgments of those around you? It's like old Cue Ball said.
Because someone stumbles, loses their way, it doesn't mean they're lost forever.
We should aim to help those who've wandered off the beaten path, not throw stones at them. Right. All that being said, this whole notion felt somewhat compromised upon witnessing this travesty.
What's with the monkey?
A better man. After having changed my tone and writing about how someone who I previously found only irritating is actually not really a bad guy, to then read a title such as this and not feel the old prickly feelings return was somewhat challenging. Robbie has even been perfectly candid about it.
There's so many different personalities in here. You know, there's the narcissist that's thrilled. There's the fat 11-year-old that needs healing. There's the 18-year-old that needs his peers to love him. Fifth watch yesterday was overwhelming. I was scared that I wouldn't stop crying.
Everybody else in the movie that I throw under the bus, though,
How are we to receive this? Is he the better man for having overcome difficult issues and re-establishing himself in a world that's typically eager to sacrifice the famous upon the altar of celebrity? Or are we to take it as a sign that he still considers himself to be better than everyone else around him and that the old arrogance has returned? Ultimately, I would advise having a fairer outlook, not just at celebrities, but in all things, simply because it's a broadly sensible approach. And despite having helped spread modern pop music and paint a bad impression of himself, he's actually chilled considerably and seems to be far more reasonable and calm in his middling years. Yet, Robbie, where once I disliked you, I have to admit, you've somewhat grown on me. But let's not forget about all of that alien nonsense, just to be on the safe side.